So, have you ever wondered how you can define and store your very own data models in your games? You know, so that you can easily define item types, or restore your previous session info and continue on with your previous game? Well, today we're going to see that in our modern game engines, that's actually quite easy to do. Hello everyone, I'm Mina, and in this quick Godot for C# tutorial, we're going to discover how the engine's custom resources make it easy to define our own data models, and how we can then load or save them quickly thanks to a basic API. Alright, first of all, let's quickly discuss what our goal is today. So in this tutorial, we're going to want to use some vehicles from Kenny's assets and spawn them in this showcase node, either at random or by reloading some previously saved data. We'll do this spawning thanks to a basic user interface that contains a randomize button on the left to get a random vehicle from a given predefined list, load and save buttons to store or retrieve data from the disk, and some info panel on the right above our 3D model that will be the data for this type of vehicle. Now, I'm not going to go into details about how this UI is structured, but if you're curious, don't forget that you can always get this example scene on my GitHub and examine it at your own pace. Okay, so the first step is going to be to focus on this vehicle data notion, and to see how we can bundle our three pieces of info together, so the name, the speed, and the 3D model together, as a single chunk of data, so that we can easily spawn a different vehicle altogether with all of its proper details. And to create one reference data file per vehicle, the easiest solution is to use a really cool feature of Godot, the custom resources. In a nutshell, custom resources allow us to define our own resource types in a project, and this way we'll be able to instantiate our own data model as .ts resource asset files. So, to create and use a custom resource, we first need to define our data model in a script. We can do that in a C# script simply by having our class inherit from Godot's built-in resource C# class and giving our class the global class attribute. Then inside, we just need to export our data fields, and we can give them some arbitrary default values if we want. Also, note that it's usually better to make these variables public, cause oftentimes you'll want to access the info in instances of this data model from other places in your codebase, typically to read some reference data. So you'll want them to be easily accessible as public variables. But anyway, now if we rebuild our project with this icon in the editor, you see that we can go to the file system doc, right-click and create a new resource. And here we now have our brand new vehicle data type in the list. So just as if we were making a material, a shader, or any other type of Godot built-in resource, we can just pick our vehicle data type and then create a new instance of this custom data model, for example for our ambulance vehicle type. After it's been created in the Godot project as a new .ts resource asset file, you see that we can edit its properties in the inspector on the right, and we do get the various fields that we exported previously in our C# model script. So basically, every instance of our vehicle data type will have these three fields available, and then we'll put different values into each to have different reference data files. Okay, so we now have our custom resource type that we can instantiate to create data assets in our Godot project easily. And now that this C# model script is ready, you see that we can create as many data instances as we want, and all from within the Godot editor. So this is a really cool thing with custom resources. They are easy to work with, and even non-developer designers can use them to populate your project info. And with all this in place, let's now see how we can use these asset files in a script, typically here to spawn random vehicles in our scene at runtime. Okay, so now suppose that we give our demo scene root node a new C# script called, for example, data manager that handles our data logic. And first of all, it will randomly spawn vehicles based on vehicle data instances. So if we take a look at the script, we see that it first gets some references to relevant nodes in the ready function. Those nodes are either UI labels that we need to update with our vehicle info, or the showcase node and its associated animation player node that will play a little grow effect when we spawn a new 3D model. Then the script imports the Godot.collections package, and it declares an array of vehicle data that is exported to the inspector. This array will be the list of allowed vehicle data reference assets that our data manager will be able to pick from at random when we click our randomize button. This random picking will be handled by the randomize function, which is linked as a callback to the pressed signal of the randomize button, and here I've basically just improved the random picking logic a bit to avoid the script re-choosing the data that we currently have, if any. This way it won't randomly re-pick the same data several times in a row. Finally, the data is loaded onto the screen with the load data function that updates everything in the interface and replaces the current vehicle model in the showcase node with the one that corresponds to this new vehicle data instance. And it even ends with our animator playing the cool grow effect. So if we go back to our editor and we remove our example fire truck from the showcase node, we can then select our root node and in the inspector create our list of allowed vehicles. You see that to reference our custom resource instances, we just needed to create new slots and assign our .resource asset files, like the ambulance asset from before. So after creating a few more vehicle data instances based on Kenny's other models, we thus get a list of available vehicles that are all instances of our custom resource type. And if we run our game, we see that we can now click our randomize button to spawn random vehicles in our showcase node, and the info at the top updates accordingly. So at this point, we have successfully packaged together all three pieces of info: the name, the speed, and the 3D model of a vehicle, using our custom vehicle data resource type. We've linked it into our data manager script, and we can therefore generate random instances at will. Now let's keep going and see how we can save and load this data very easily using some nice Godot APIs. Okay, with all this ready, it's now time to see how we can use Godot resources directly as save objects. Cause yeah, in addition to being easy to edit in the inspector and quite easy to define in the script, those resources can also be used very quickly to store and reload your game data. To handle these loads and saves, we're going to re-enable the load and save buttons in our interface, and then we'll prepare two new functions in our code, load and save, to connect them to the pressed signals of each button. Each function will start by declaring the name of the file to load or save data from. Of course, you might adapt this name to your liking, and perhaps you want it to change depending on the data that you're currently using, but here there are two important points to keep in mind. First, the extension is .trs, which, as we saw before, is the usual extension for Godot resource assets. And here, remember that our game save files will also be Godot resource assets. Second, the folder path that I'm using here is res. As a quick reminder, this is a special Godot path that corresponds to your current project root folder. And in this case, I'm using it because it's really handy for a tutorial, because we'll be able to easily inspect our save file as it appears and gets modified during our game sessions. We won't have to go and browse through some weird folders on our computer. However, we usually don't use this res folder for an actual game in production. Rather, in prod, you'll want to use the user folder, which corresponds to the system-dependent user data folder as explained in this page on the official Godot documentation. But in any case, here we'll keep things simple and use the res folder. So okay, we now have our data file names, and then we have different logics for each function. For the load function, we're going to use the resource loader API to check that the file name we're trying to load indeed exists. If it doesn't, we're going to debug some error message on the screen, but if it does, then we'll load the data from this file using the resource loader API. And you see that because it's a clever Godot built-in, specifically dedicated to resources, we can directly use a generic type to get the data as a vehicle data instance, and thus pass it on to our load data method from before to update the visuals and the UI. For the save function, it's quite similar. We're going to use our current vehicle data reference, and then we'll use the resource saver API to create a new .trs file on the disk with this data. Again, here you see that the API is super quick to use, and we don't have to worry about any specific conversion or encoding of our data. It just works as is. So, here we are. If we retry our game now, we see that we start off with no data. So if we click the load button, the little debug that we added tells us that there is no data file to load. But we can click on our randomize button to get some initial generated data, and then click the save button to save this current vehicle data instance as our game data. If we go back to the editor, we see that a new data.trs file indeed appeared at the root of our project, and if we double-click on it, we can check that it has the proper info. It has the info that we currently have in our game and that we just saved. So then if we randomly get another vehicle in our game and re-click the load button, this time it does reload this saved data in place, and we get back our fire truck from before. Okay, so this is pretty great. We have a very quick and easy load-save mechanic that relies on Godot's resources, which means that we can inspect our data files directly in the inspector, update them or correct them easily, and we can even handle nested data with sub-resources if need be, like our packed-in reference. However, there's a little issue here that might not be obvious at first glance, and it's the fact that the data isn't re-updated immediately. Basically, the first time that we create or save on the disk, it will appear instantly, and with the data that we put in it. But then, if we resave this file with new data, and then we try to reload it, the changes will only be taken into account and we'll actually get our new data if we close the game. And yet, if we take a look at the file on the disk, we see that it did change after our save call. So why isn't it reloaded properly? Well, luckily, we can fix this quite easily by changing just one option in our load function. In fact, the problem that we have here is caused by Godot's automatic resource caching. In short, caching is the idea of storing some of the data that you access frequently in a temporary and more accessible part of your computer's memory, to get quicker future accesses. So it makes the system more performant and responsive, because the program won't have to go and inspect long-term storage locations, like hard drives, every time you ask for this piece of data. And by default, Godot does this when loading resources with the Resource Loader API, which is often really cool because it means that you won't have to wait too long every time you get the same piece of data from the disk, but in our case, it also means that this cache will sort of freeze the data to the value it had the first time we accessed it, and it will be frozen during the entire game session. Which is why we don't get our updated data until we completely restart our demo. To fix this, the solution is simply to change our resourceloader.load call a tiny bit and use the ignore cache mode. And that's it! If we retry our game, we see that we can now randomize, save, and load data as much as we want, and we always get the most up-to-date save file info from the disk. So, here you go! You now know how to make your own Godot custom resource, how to implement a basic save-load mechanic using those resources, and even how to change the caching mode to allow for instant data reloads. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, feel free to like it and subscribe to the channel to not miss the next ones. And of course, don't hesitate to drop a comment with ideas of Godot tricks that you'd like to learn. As always, thanks a lot for watching, and take care!